Hello and welcome to a new episode on What Does This Data Say? I am Ajay Prakash. Today's episode is not a debate about public versus private. It is not about ideology, left or right. It is about national capability and how India's most important PSUs, built carefully over the last 70 years, are today being weakened, sidelined, and in many cases used as ATMs for private corporate expansion. A story of how India's public institutions were built and how they function, and how in the last decade many of them have been quietly pushed off the cliff. To understand that, we must first go back to where it all began. Whether you love Nehru or hate him, one fact cannot be denied. Independent India had no private industry capable of nation building. In 1947, India had no domestic steel capacity, no oil exploration, no power equipment manufacturing, no telecom worth the name, no aerospace capability, no defense, no heavy engineering, no national banking systems, no insurance safety net, and almost no scientific infrastructure. If India had waited for private capital to build these things, probably India would still be waiting today. This is where Nehru's vision becomes undeniable. Between the 1950s and 1960s, India created, just to name a few, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, nationalized in 1952. We now manufacture fighter jets, helicopters. BEL 1954 now manufactures radars for defense electronics. ONGC 1956 oil and gas exploration. LIC 1956 National Life Insurance. SBI, India's largest bank, the banking backbone today. Indian Oil Corporation, BHEL, steel plants, Atomic Energy and Space Foundation. The list is endless. These PSUs built India's railway modernization, space program, nuclear program, oil security, telecom backbone, banking system, insurance coverage, and heavy industry. They were the foundations of India's power. And today, these very foundations are being drilled, hollowed out, and sold in cheap. So, in this episode, we look at five PSUs, five case studies that reveal the pattern. The first I'll talk about is CMC Limited, India's first strategic IT PSU, now dissolved. Second is LIC, forced to fund private conglomerates. Third, I'll talk about BSNL, not allowed to compete at all. Then Coal India, choked while imports enrich private players. And lastly, I'll talk about HAL, sideline in the Rafale deal. So let's begin. Case study 1, CMC Limited. How India's first IT powerhouse was sold, hollowing out digital sovereignty. CMC was created in 1975 for one purpose: to provide critical IT systems for the Indian state. And it did just that. CMC built the first Indian Railways passenger reservation system, customs and port automations, security and fingerprint identification systems for the Indian police, defense logistics IT, power automation, stock exchanges, critical communication equipment for defense, and banking automation in the pre-core banking era. In the late 70s, after IBM exited India, it was CMC that maintained India's computer ecosystem. When the private sector did not have the capability, CMC did and built upon it. By the late 1990s, CMC had become India's only state owned critical IT backbone provider, a strategic national digital asset, a company with deep government system expertise, a company trusted with defense and security digital operation, and then it was privatized. The person responsible for this sale was the journalist minister of disinvestment, Arun Shori, who had no prior experience in governance, a disaster of a minister in the Vajpayee cabinet. CMC was sold to TCS in 2001 for peanuts, later fully absorbed and dissolved by TCS. The result: India today has no government owned high tech IT company, no sovereign digital systems builder, no PSU to build defense critical infrastructure software, and it's totally dependent on private vendors who are often foreign companies. Railways has gone to private vendors, customs has gone to private vendors, communication has gone to foreign and private players. Compare that with China, which has not just a few but dozens of the largest companies in the world, which are PSUs, managed by a powerful body called SESAC, State Owned Asset Supervision and Administration Commission. There are about 98 central SOEs in China as of 2024. Imagine if China goes and dissolves the State Grid Corporation of China, the largest PSU in China, what would happen? And yet, India dissolved CMC, a strategic blunder, and today we are paying the price. Case study 2: LIC. How India's largest financial institution became a piggy bank for private corporate expansion. LIC was founded in 1956 to protect ordinary Indians. For decades, LIC was the largest insurer, India's largest domestic investor, India's most trusted financial institution. Today, LIC is being used like a financial shock absorber for the government and a capital pipeline for private conglomerates. Let's examine two patterns. Pattern 1: LIC has been used to bail out government failures. Whenever the government faces a fiscal shock, whenever the markets panic, whenever an IPO struggles, LIC is quietly requested to step in. Examples: the LIC IPO itself, priced high, forced on the market, LIC policy holders took the hit. LIC deploying funds to support government disinvestment targets. And LIC is used repeatedly to steady markets when FPI outflow spikes. This is not financial autonomy, this is political compulsion. Pattern 2: LIC's exposure to certain corporate groups. In 2023, the Adani Group crisis revealed how deeply LIC was exposed. LIC held over 30,000 crore in Adani companies. LIC was the single largest non-promoter shareholder in several Adani firms. LIC's exposure grew dramatically during the periods when global funds reduced exposure, and LIC's investment decision raised major questions of prudence. LIC claims its investments were safe and made under the rules, but the timing, concentration, and political context led to nationwide concern. The broad pattern is clear. When the government needs money or wants to support a favored group, LIC is the easiest tap to open. This is not why LIC was created. It was created to protect families, not to act as an emergency fund for political and corporate interests. The people's institution should not carry the risk of private expansion. Now let's come to the third case study of today: BSNL. How a national telecom giant was not allowed to compete. BSNL was once the largest telecom operator in India. In landlines, it had 90% market share. In mobile, it was neck and neck with Airtel and Vodafone. Then came the collapse. But BSNL did not die naturally. It was strangled. Let's see how. Firstly, BSNL was never given a fair playing field. While private operators got flexible spectrum payments, received easy permission, were allowed to drop tariffs, were allowed fast expansion, BSNL all the while was forced to maintain rural towers, serve unprofitable regions, carry government departments, take universal service obligation. BSNL got the burden, private operators got the profit pool. Secondly, the killer blow. BSNL was denied 4G for almost a decade. Airtel launched 4G in 2012, Vodafone and Idea in 2015-16. Jio launched Pan India 4G in 2016. BSNL repeatedly asked for 4G spectrum permission. It was denied for years. This is the most important fact in BSNL's death. India's national telecom carrier was denied the technology that every private operator freely received. When India shifted to 4G, BSNL was forced to stay on 2G and 3G. Customers fled, revenue collapsed, market share evaporated. This was not competition, it was policy strangulation. The third point was the tender sabotage. Even when BSNL finally got permission, 4G tenders were cancelled, vendor restrictions imposed only on BSNL, domestic procurement rules added mid tender, rollout delayed another 2 to 3 years. Private companies could buy from any global vendor. BSNL was told use only Indian vendors, even if equipment isn't ready. Result, BSNL got 4G almost a decade late. By 2019-2020, the PSU was unable to pay salaries on time. Imagine a national telecom carrier with lakhs of employees unable to pay its own staff, not because it was inefficient, but because it was denied the technology, denied investment, and denied fair competition. And lastly, when 5G has arrived, BSL didn't even have 4G. In 2022, Jio launched 5G, Airtel launched 5G. BSNL was just beginning 4G trials. By design, BSNL can no longer catch up. BSNL is not a failure of PSU culture, it's a failure of political will. The next case study, Coal India. How the world's largest coal miner is choked while imports enrich private traders. Coal India is the world's largest coal producer. 596 million tons in 21-22, 622 million tons in 22-23. This is the highest production in its history. Production is rising, but expansion is again blocked. So why Coal India cannot expand faster? There are land acquisition delays, environmental and forest clearance bottlenecks, rehabilitation hurdles, and policy paralysis. Parliamentary replies in 2021 confirmed 15 major projects were delayed due to land and clearance issues. So domestic coal is deliberately slowed. The result, expensive imports surge. Coal India sells coal to power plants at 1450 per ton, the FSA price, around 2000 rupees per ton including freight. Imported coal cost 8300 per ton in 21-22, 12500 per ton in 22-23. And who benefits? Large private traders, mainly Adani Enterprises, India's largest coal importer. And who loses? The discoms, state governments, consumers like you and me, the Indian taxpayer. This is not energy policy, this is engineered dependence. And the last one I'll talk about today is Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. how India lost its biggest ever aerospace opportunity. Originally, India was supposed to buy 18 Rafales from France, 108 Rafales to be built in India by HAL. Full technology transfer, India's biggest Make in India defense project. HAL today builds Sukhoi 30s, Tejas, Dhruv helicopters, Jaguar upgrades, Mirage upgrades. HAL is India's aerospace backbone. But in 2015, HAL was removed from the Rafale deal. Instead, a new company, Reliance Defence, created just 12 days earlier, was inserted as Dassault's partner. Reliance had no aerospace experience, no infrastructure, no capability. The Salt executives admitted they were encouraged to partner privately. The outcome, no Rafales built in India, no technology transfer. India received only 36 jets, all built in France. HAL lost a once in a generation opportunity. India lost a decade of aerospace capability. This was not reform, it was deliberate exclusion of a PSU to favor a private group. Across all five PSUs, the pattern is identical. Starve the PSU, deny spectrum, deny clearances, deny funds, create artificial crisis, show the PSUs as inefficient, shift business to private players, give private entities favorable policies, let the PSU collapse, and finally say, PSUs don't work, let's privatize them. A quiet transfer of national capability from public hands to private monopolies. These PSUs built India. CMC built Digital India. LIC built financial safety. BSNL connected remote India. Coal India powered industrial India. HAL built aerospace India. But today they are used, squeezed, weakened, blamed, and slowly handed over to private players. This is not modernization, it is denationalization of strategic capability. And a nation that willingly destroys its own institutions to benefit a handful of corporates will one day pay a very heavy price. Thank you for watching. I am Ajay Prakash.